Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 785. Now, in today's episode, we'll be talking about how our expectations become our reality. That's really what it's about. I want us to get into the frame of reference that you are the active participant into your life, and the very nature of your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, the internal representation of how you see the world around you becomes your reality in many different ways. Now, I'm not trying to get into the real cool craziness of like holographic universe kind of things. I mean, we could do, but maybe not in this episode. But ultimately, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs will dictate how you experience the world and therefore how you show up to the world. You are taking in billions of bits of information every single moment. Now, you're not consciously aware of those bits of information because that's the brain. That's the unconscious aspect to us. So what we do is we break that down in a way that we can make sense at a conscious level. So therefore, you will delete, distort, and generalize based on your internal perception. So you're really not seeing reality. You're seeing the subjective reflection of reality based on how you see yourself and how you see your place in this world. Interesting, right? That you're not really seeing things objectively. It's impossible to do so because you have been through so many different experiences, come to so many different conclusions about yourself and the world and everything in it, and so many decisions that kind of creates, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of creates, if that's the word, you know the word I'm looking for. This is being broadcasted live on youtube.com/Joseph Clough. It creates this, or curates even, there we go, this narrative of your own expectations, which become a reality to us. Let's put it this way: if you don't believe that you're worthy, and therefore you have certain thoughts about yourself, you delete aspects of reality. You delete that job opportunity. You delete seeing that person you really like, but you just negate doing anything about it because we don't believe we're worthy of that person. We delete opportunities about money. We distort our self-perception because if I don't feel like I'm worthy, every time I look in the mirror, it reflects back an image or representation of unworthiness. And therefore, I will generalize my experience of my identity into the world. I'll go, I can never do this. I'm always in pain. I'm always fearing failure. I always fear the rejection, or I'm always a victim, or I never get good relationships. We start to generalize our experience. And to me, that's not something when we come from the negative point of view of what we want. But hopefully you understand that when you're taking in that information and you're deleting and distorting and generalizing based on the narrative that you're running about yourself and the world, that becomes your expectation. So if you have a low self-esteem, once again, if I don't feel like I'm worthy, what is my expectations in life? Am I expecting good money? Am I expecting good relationships? Am I expecting being healthy and happy? No. My expectation is I'm not worthy, and therefore we fill in that information. I'm not worthy, therefore I can't have the relationship. I cannot have that money. So that expectation builds in this, the thoughts that we have, the emotions that we have, and it's very hard to stop it. Because once again, you have been programmed through your past experiences. You've been programmed by society, by the media, by the events that you went through from the very moment you were born all the way up to your present age now. You've been manipulated, you could say, into seeing the world in a certain way by your your interaction with the world and your observation of the world. Therefore, you begin to expect certain things. If you expect debt, you're going to get more debt. If you expect bad relationships, you're going to get bad relationships. It's just simply as simple as that. That's what it really is. Our expectations become our reality ultimately. Whatever you think, whatever you feel, whatever you then act upon becomes your benchmark as to what is possible. You see, there was a time when we didn't think we could run very fast. Was it Roger Bannister? I think it's Roger Bannister, like the 4 or 5 minute mile. I always forget which number it is. There was an expectation by society that it was impossible to break that. Then one day, Roger Bannister ran quicker, beat that barrier, and then suddenly, over the coming weeks and months, although it never got broken before, there was evidence that it could be done, and suddenly a lot of people started to beat that record. So isn't it interesting that before that we had evidence that it was possible to break that mile, that everyone else's physiology did not play up to it? It was almost like they were convincing themselves of the expectation that this is impossible and therefore it cannot be done. But until there was evidence that it was possible, that expectation changed. So it kind of makes us ask the question, what are you expecting in your life that therefore you are putting this barrier around you of not thinking that things are possible? Consider that. Really consider what your expectations are, and if you need help with that, consider it like this. As soon as you wake up in the morning, what is your initial expectations for the day? Is it that, oh my goodness, I need to go to work and I dread it, I'm worried, I feel like an imposter, I have anxiety? Well, therefore, that's your expectation of how your day is going to be. You are projecting it into your future. You are perceiving it to be true. And if whatever you perceive to be true becomes your projection of reality, that is what you're shining up in your world. That is the mirror which is being reflected back. Now, this may push up against some of your boundaries, and hopefully you'll get it in the way that it is intentionally said, so my intentions behind it. But sometimes where we are is simply based on our reaction and decisions to be where we are right now. Now, where that can really frustrate people because people can do bad things to us, and I get that totally. However, and there is a however, I have to choose to react differently now. I cannot allow my past to dictate where I'm going in the future. I cannot allow those people to dictate this narrative of how I see myself anymore. So I must assume responsibility and consider that at the moment I am projecting in the world a certain expectation which is displeasing to me. What is the expectation which is displeasing to you right now? What thoughts, feelings, and identities that you have about yourself, and the associations to the external world. So if we go deeper into it, because we're talking about mainly our identity, like I am not worthy, but that can also change our association to certain things. For example, what is your expectation on money? Are you expecting it to leave you, or are you expecting it to come to you? Totally different energies. Do you have an association to money that you have, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or money is the root of all evil, or when you think of money, it just kind of fills you up with dread and scarcity? Well, if that's the association you have, that also becomes the expectation of the role of money. Whereas if you had a different expectation and association that money is truly abundance to help and support others, that the more abundant I get, the more I can help people in the world, That money is a good thing because it can solve problems, it can solve my loved ones' problems, it can give security. In fact, it's not the most, but one of the most joyous things to have because it means I can live a certain life and make an impact in the world. Now, if you had either one of those perceptions or expectations, right, what becomes the reality? Well, in the first one, of the scarcity and the association of negativity around money, that becomes your expectation and it gets reflected back at you. Whereas the other one of money is great, it is energy, it is a transactional of equal flow between one or more people, or the value that I do and I get something back to meet that value because I am of value and therefore I receive that money and it's a multiplier because I can then make an impact in the world. What do you think happens in that scenario? I'm going to guess you'll be looking for money and it will be looking for you. One of the sentences I always tend to say is whatever you desire, desires you too. So whatever you expect also expects you. Right? If you're expecting to have bad relationship, guess what? Those bad relationships are just waiting for you to be turned up to that place to be able to go, hey, I've been expecting you. I'm a bad relationship. Because that's been the narrative in your mind. So we've got to understand, really, really specifically, assumption of our expectations will predict our actions. The assumption of our expectations will predict the following actions of what we do. So if my assumption is that I'm not enough, well, that will predict the actions of someone who is not going to be enough. And therefore, the action of anxiety, the action of failing, the action of being rejected or being manipulated by other people. If you have a low self-esteem, they tend to prey upon that. You see, we're shining out like a light all the time. We're just shining whatever we think and feel the most, and depending on the quality of what that is, becomes reflected back, whether it be people, situations, problems, and solutions. Now, that is actually good news though. Why? Because it means if you are shining right now the expectation that you are not worthy and deserving, it means it's contained in here, your unconscious mind. And therefore, if you start to retrain the unconscious mind to consider a different expectation, a different reality, and it can take time. After all, you've had a lot of training in seeing the world in a not so good way or seeing yourself in a not so good way. But you can begin to decipher that past narrative. You can begin to learn from the past. You see, when you learn from the past, those negative emotions do not have to exist. Why? Because the emotions are held in the body to try to protect us. But if you have an upgrade, an epiphany of learning, therefore, those emotions are no longer needed because it's the safer way of being, because those learnings will be there in the future. So the more you learn from your past and understand that you are literally the creator of your own perception of reality, which means you can become that creator of something better, even if the world is reflecting right now all the pain, even if it's reflecting all the scarcity, even if it's reflecting all the self-doubt. When you start to double down on your own development and start to be curious as to go, look, here's another little thing before we kind of close that loop. Most people go, I need to go to work. I need to go to the gym. I have to do this. Well, ultimately, we don't need to. We don't need to, right? What if we change that word need into get? I get to go to the gym today. I get to go to work. I get to do all these things in life. Now suddenly my expectation of that action changes because my relationship, by changing that one word, is totally different. I get to work out. I get to work on my relationship. I get to work in a career. I get to leave my job if I want to. I get to cultivate my identity in a way that serves me rather than doesn't serve me. That totally changes the frame of reference of time spent on our own development. It doesn't have to be a chore. It does not have to be hard, but it has to come from you. Because after all, your expectations become your evaluations for life. They set up the rules and the conditions of what is and what is not possible. And you are the ruler of that one. It may not feel like it because it is unconscious. But ultimately, rather being the passenger to your unconscious mind, you've got to be in the driving seat. It's been driving these associations, these deletions, distortions, and generalizations based on our identity, based on our personality, based on our past memories. Ultimately, we got to get back in the driving seat and go, hey, unconscious mind. There's a different way to see reality. So when I look in a mirror, it doesn't have to shine back pain. It can actually be the opposite. You see, a lot of people feel like the world is just kind of closing in around them. I experience life and reality different. Not all the time, because I'm human, but I get to see it in a radiating way. I get to be able to see, like, I'm radiating my desires. I'm radiating what I want. The more I cultivate the thought and the expectation that I'm going to get something good, even if I'm not feeling good, I want to expect that I'm going to get better. I'm going to work on it. Even if things are showing up, I'm going to expect to learn from it. I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Even if everything feels like it's not good. It's up to me to assume responsibility to make a difference and an impact by coming up with a different perception. What is the opportunity here? How can I innovate even in all the noise? When people are saying, I cannot do something, what do I have to do to cultivate the bulletproof mind that goes, do you know what? I can do this and I get to do this. Because you do get to do so many things. That is freedom of choice. So just remember, as I said, your expectations become your reality. Your expectations become your boundaries, or to be boundless, where you can step into the void and go, do you know what? I am the creator of my experience right now, and therefore I can do something about it. So I hope you got a little bit of value there. Ultimately, assume responsibility, and even if it's really hard, I know we've gone through so many things throughout life, but don't allow your past to dictate your future. Don't allow that one person or those many people to carry on hurting you by carrying on that same narrative of expectation. It is your choice today. In every moment, you get a choice to see yourself and the world differently. And the more you choose differently from the past, the more that gets sent down to your unconscious mind. You've got to consider all the reasons of why it's important to change, to get that leverage at an unconscious level. You've got to be able to mark out time of your day or once per week to work on your development. All of those things, you get to do that. And to me, that's very empowering, and therefore your expectations can be one of beauty, where you see yourself as beauty, where you see yourself as unconditional love, that you see yourself of being, I am worthy, I am deserving, I am enough, I am love, I am of value. If you have those 5, you will see not only yourself in a whole new light, but the world reflecting back, you'll perceive it differently. You will show up differently, and you will radiate differently, and you will receive differently. So I hope you got value from this. And of course, if you ever need help, my personal help and my team's help, and you experience the imposter syndrome, and you don't feel worthy, deserving, good enough, and you dread getting to work, and you are a professional, but you are also invested in getting yourself out of this situation in time and money. It's not free. You can go ahead and apply to work with us at josephclough.info/talk. When you go there, you'll see a little calendar, you'll find a time, and it'll be a one-to-one Zoom call with us. And then you'll fill out an application. And when you get to the call, we'll consider all the things you want to let go of, exactly what you want to achieve, what's getting in the way, and we'll come up with a blueprint, a plan to make it a reality. I know that you're worthy. Even if you don't believe it right now, I can see that in you. I want to get that out of you and go, look, Let's make the change. Let's make an impact together. Let's grow your business. Let's grow your career. Let's grow your abundance. Let's grow your relationships and wake up every day knowing you're worthy, deserving, and enough. That is my mission. And if you experience that, then go ahead once again to josephclough.info/talk. And with that, I look forward to speaking to you on a future episode. Many thanks, and goodbye.